And starting off tonight, very quickly, let me just see a show of hands. Okay, not bad, thank you. You can put them down now, now, let me ask you this, and if you do know the answer to this, raise your hand. How many of you know what YOLO means? Raise your hand if you know what YOLO means. Okay, all right, it's a very in term these days. YOLO is short for you only live once. Okay, it's kind of an trendy sort of thing, you only live once, so do what you can while you can, have fun today because you only live once. Well, this week, when I find things that I think are really neat, it really pumps me up. And this week, I got pumped up. Because I found online, I'm glad you asked, I'm about to tell you. I found it's a picture, and obviously not an actual picture, but a drawing of Jesus standing in front of the empty tomb with the stone rolled back. And up on top it says, YOLO, and down below it says, just kidding. That says so much, so well. There's our Easter statement right there. No, we don't only live once. And that's why we have this incredible season. That's why we have this incredible faith. Because we have the promise. We have that promise. It should give us hope. It should give us joy. But for some reason, there are some who just refuse to open themselves to that. Once there was a brilliant university professor who, after he received tenure, turned his attention to miracles, contacts with the dead, and near-death experiences. Such events, he argued, were delusional wish fulfillment, ignorant superstitions. As a scientist and a scholar, it was his job to denounce them and expose them. He wrote many articles and books about the near-death experience. It was the result, he contended, of alterations of brain chemistry at the time of death. Once you were really dead, he insisted, you were really dead, and that was that. Most of those who had been through such experiences never heard of him. Those that did just shrugged their shoulders and said, he's never been there, and we have. One day, the professor was stricken with a massive heart attack. His family rushed him to the hospital. He died in the emergency room. But just as the nurse was zipping him up in the plastic body bag, his eyes flickered open and he began to breathe again. The doctors rushed back into the room and this time managed to keep him alive. Later, after surgery and complete recovery, he returned home and back to his university. One day at lunch, his colleagues asked him about whether he had encountered any of the near-death experience phenomena, the long tunnel, the figure of light, the review of his life. Not at all, he said. Nothing like that nonsense ever happened to me. After lunch, when he was walking back to the faculty building, his closest friend asked him whether that was the whole truth. Not exactly, he admitted. I experienced the whole thing. It was just my brain chemistry, nothing more. His friend asked him, "Why did the figure of light send you back?" But the doubting professor refused to answer that question. Sometimes believing is seeing. We've been taught it's the other way around. Seeing is believing. We've been taught that if you have it there in front of you, if you have proof, then it's valid. Well, remember, folks, if you have it proven to you, there's no room for faith. It's only when we don't have certainty that we have to make that decision that, yes, I'm going to accept what I cannot see, but what deep down inside of me knows is true. Believing is seeing. I have to be open to the possibility, or I'm not going to get past my very narrow, strictly my view. Easter, the resurrection of Jesus, teaches us that God's imagination is far greater than ours. And God's plans for us exceed far beyond what we can even conceive. If we allow for the possibility, if we choose to believe, then the promise is amazing and exciting. And we are joyful and hopeful. But if not, if we're so afraid that it's got to be physically real, it's got to be provable, it's got to be strictly within the realm of my mind, then we're going to be defensive and bitter and arrogant and frightened at the same time. Thomas, he doubted because he had been hurt. If the other disciples hadn't been there the week before, and they were told the Lord has been raised up, they might have been just as doubtful. Since Thomas was the one that wasn't there, he gets the label. He gets the bad rap for all of history. Poor Thomas. To believe impossibilities, to be humble enough and excited enough to say, first of all, God, you want what's best for us. And you know what that is far more than we do. And to say, secondly, Lord, thy will be done. Thy amazing, exciting, life-giving will be done. We'll seek. We'll be open to it. And it will present itself to us.